I'm going to type something and I want you to tell me what it says. Ready? Now, I'm going to switch into English and I want you to tell me what this says. Check it out. Okay, so let me know. This first one is Thai, the second one's English. That's crazy. They're almost identical, and this is a problem of many learners of Thai. Now, if you're a native Thai speaker and you just see one or the other, I guess context will play a part, but you just know. If you know you're reading in Thai mode, you'll read it as one way. If you know you're reading it in English, you'll read it as another way. But this actual word was a very clever trick that was used by one company here in Bangkok for their branding. And it was for a shoe company. Now, this was for new shoes. Or was it? I'm going to show you here. If we zoom in at what I actually typed, let's have a look at the Thai. So in Thai, I'm going to type the word ton. So here we go. We have totahan, nonu. Okay, now when you've got the loop, and the general rule is when you're writing in these standard fonts, you start with the loop and then you follow it to the end. There are only two letters without a loop, by the way. That's Kokai and Totong. So apart from those, you start with a loop. And then if I'm writing in English, alternate way of writing nu or new is NU. Now, if you have a look here, they look very different. But watch what happens when we scroll down and we see these fonts. Now, this is the MIT font, but I'm using this as an example of one of the non-standard Thai fonts without the heads, because this is probably the type of font that gives learners of Thai the most problem. And so what I'm going to do today is tell you the secrets of how to read these weird Thai fonts. I've broken them into a couple of categories, but I think this one without the heads is probably the most problematic. There are a couple of basic rules to reading these, and that's why actually in Cracking Thai Fundamentals, I included a very substantial section of every single letter with all of these alternate fonts, as well as other letters in the region to show actually where these shapes have come from, because I just want to get these primitive shapes into you as a learner. Actually, there are primitive shapes for Indic scripts. So when I see something with a fork, I know it's probably going to be a y. If I see something like this, I probably know it's going to be a k kind of sound. If I see a cup, I probably know it's going to be a b sound. So these primitive shapes are right throughout all Indic scripts in one permutation or another. Some scripts have many of them, some have most, some have a few of them, but you look out for them. And this is built into the wiring of any native speaker of a script like that. But as a learner, you don't know. So in Cracking Thai Fundamentals, I have all of these. If you haven't got a copy, you can click on the link below. And actually, in my Minecraft program, we spend time going through these primitives so you just get the language into you. And I've just knocked the price right down to open it to anybody. So if you really want to get these fundamental language learning skills, especially for languages in Asia, my Minecraft program lays this foundation for you. And you can get those Cracking Thai Fundamentals, the online Cracking Thai Fundamentals program, everything at J Academy. But that's enough of that. How do you read these fonts? So the really cool thing, as most people probably know, if you go to fonts.google.com, you can call up all of these fonts, and I've clicked in Thai and I have my sample text here. This is my specimen text. It's the Thai alphabet. Now I have it in order here, and you can change the size of letters and things, so it's pretty cool. So right now we were looking at the MIT font. MIT, by the way, from the word mitra, meaning friendly, from Sanskrit. But anyway, so we're looking at this, and you can see there are no loops there. The other font that's worth looking at is the Sriracha, mainly because it's representing a standard handwriting font. And if you look at my handwriting clip from a couple of weeks ago that I did in Thai, you will see that I used samples from this to show you. This is less ambiguous, but the principles that I'm teaching you today can be applied right here with the handwriting fonts, as well as with these loopless fonts like MIT. So what I'm going to do is click into MIT, because we can use this as our playground here. You can see what I typed in there is all up here now. Cool thing is if I actually click into one of these, you can actually see them laid out. And so here we have the regular font. So there are a few things that I want to show you with these. So first of all, the letters that I mentioned won't have a loop. This one, Kokai, and this one here, Totung. Okay, so Kokai, Totung, they will not have a loop traditionally if you were to write a loop. So everything else, the general rule is if there were to be a loop, it will have what we call in Thai a ting. Ting is just this little sort of flappy bit. Okay, so you will have a ting representing where the loop should be. Now, there are some cases, however, where that's not the case, but let's have a look here. So if we look at the letters Totahan, okay, you can see the loop traditionally is right at the top here. And if we look at Nonu, the loop will be down here. And so when I'm talking about that little thing, you can see here, you can see this little edge coming out. And so that's what we call a ting ting. So it will be a little thing where the loop should be. And so for other words, so for example, for the word for milk or breasts, whichever one you prefer, you can see the loop is here. We have the Nonu has the loop, and then it comes around, and you've got another loop down there, but the starting loop, the head loop, and that's just a loop in the character. Then it goes up. And then here for Moma, which is the M sound, it starts with the loop here, and then this front loop goes down the front. That's another primitive shape, actually, for many of the M sounds in Abugidas from India. They will have some kind of shape like this with a bubble in the front. So we have bubble in the back, bubble in front. Or try saying that 10 times. Bubble in the back, bubble in the back, bubble in the back, bubble in the front, nom. And so you can see the thing has been taken off here, but where the bubble or the loop that has significance to the identity of the character, which would be this one, back and front, that's where the thing is. Okay, so look for the thing. That will give you an indication as to where the loop should be. Now, it's not the head loop in this case, but it's the loop that signifies the identity of whatever letter that is. Now, you notice, however, there are some letters like this. So if I write in Thai, Porpan, and you also have for, which has the extended tail. So these are the low-class p and f sounds in Thai. If I do the high-class versions of them, now if you don't know about low-class, high-class consonants, again, cracking Thai fundamentals, or go back and look at probably 70% of my clips on YouTube over the past years have been talking about classes and why they're there. So you can look into that. So these are the low-class consonants for p and f, and their cousins in the high class would be paw pung and for fa. Now you can see that the loop here, the direction that it goes, the paw is looking out. So I like to say the low class are always looking out for something new, while the high class are looking in on themselves. That's a good mnemonic for these four, how to remember them. And so what happens when we get to these fonts, have a look at this. The low class totally lose any kind of head or thing, and the high class have this little thing indicating that they're going in. Why didn't they put one pointing out? Well, maybe they just figured all you need is one to signify. The general rule will be, just like we saw with Totahan, is if you can make out the shape without the loop or the thing, well then you probably don't need the loop or the thing there. And so this actually, to a native English speaker, would probably look like a W, whereas this, okay, you're getting an idea, this is a paw pung and a for fa. So these letters here without the heads are probably problematic. So understand that usually it's the lower class letters in these ones that will not have the thing. Otherwise, it's going to be the high class versions of paw and fa. Now, how do you know whether it's English or Thai? Well, look at the sign, look at the context. But like that shoe brand, you may be able to play on both meanings. Now, I didn't go in earlier what it actually meant. So if you look at this, new shoes. So to the English speaker, you're seeing new shoes. Great, that's a great thing for marketing. But in Thai, this is tono ton. What does ton mean? It means they'll stand up to anything long lasting. If you have something that ton, that means it's not going to wear down easily. And so whether you're seeing it in English, new shoes, or shoes that ton, shoes that are not going to fall apart easily, this is brilliant marketing, and it's getting into the subconscious of English speakers or Thai speakers. And for Thais who know English, you get both. So it really reinforces these two different kind of meanings, but all of them good. Brilliant marketing using fonts. And actually, the art of using fonts in Thai to represent brands that we already know in English is a real art. And there are a select group of people in Thailand that are really good at this and have made their careers out of it. making all of the brands that we know have equivalent subconscious kind of feelings when you look at them in Thai. For example, Coca Cola or Lays, you can see that the English and the Thai versions, they look very similar. Even if you didn't speak Thai and you looked at one of these brands, you'd know what the brand was because they've manipulated the font to seem similar enough. Now we have these three letters. So we have Kokai, and there's no loop at all. We have Posampao, the loops on the outside. So my mnemonic is you stub your toe and the pus comes out, and so it's on the outside. And then this Totung, you have an ingrown Totung toenail. Okay, so Totung has the loop on the inside. But let's look down here. So this is Go, this is Pa, this is Ta. And so you can see what I just mentioned. The thing is going to be in the direction of where the loop would have been. So this is how you tell these letters. These ones are pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory. Now these next ones are ones that really confuse a lot of people. And we have Dodek and Kokwai. So this is Da, this is Pa. Dodek, by the way, is not a D like in English. In D, you can hear this ticking. D, but Dodek is a stopped throat N, so it's Da, Da. You don't get any of this ticking. So Dodek, Kokwai. If we come down here, have a look down here. So Dodek, if you look at this one, the loop is in the center and it goes and hooks onto the toe, whereas Kokwai, it hooks on into the center of this shape here. And so here you can see it's actually easier to read because the Dodek, it just drops down from the middle and it starts down here. And that's pretty standard with any of these headless fonts for Dodek. You look for almost a thing right at the bottom, whereas Kokwai, you're going to have some stick poking into the center. Okay, so this is how you actually separate these. And I would say that these versions are probably easier to distinguish than the traditional fonts with the loopy heads. Other letters that get confused with Thais, you have Hokai and Bobemai. Now you can see here that they kind of look similar even in my printed font, and this is why in handwriting font, and you would have seen in that Saraban, it looks almost like a V. Sometimes you even get a loop at the bottom to show it's Hokai as opposed to Bobemai, because when you're writing fast, they look similar. But have a look at this. The Hokai version will have the thing here, whereas Bobemai is just a cup shape. And so there, if I add a Kokai in there, you can actually see that Bobemai is kind of like an inverted Kokai, except Kokai in this font has a little point here, but some fonts they won't. It will just be an upside down Bobemai. Now for these next ones, I want you to think, don't get it wrong. Wa o ngo, wa wan, o ang ngo ngu, wa o ngo. Now here with the loop, they look totally different. Have a look. You've got a loop and this sort of goes up. That's the w. You've got an o. That's the throat position. And it's kind of like a circle. And ngo ngu, it looks like a snake sitting on its tail maybe. So ngo ngu, ngu meaning snake. So wa o ngo, wong. Don't get it wrong. Because when we come down here, look at that. So we have wa o ngo. So the one here, again, low class, doesn't have the head. So this is the wa wan, no head. O ang will have something starting in the middle, going out like that. Or it might just be a total circle. And ngongu, have a look at this. That pointy tail that we saw before is just totally gone. The point's not there. So it comes with a loop. Then it kind of goes out and up. So it flattens out on the bottom and then goes up. And that's a general thing that will happen with these headless fonts, is that ngongu will usually lose its sharpness. And so when you're looking at them fast, wa or ngo could be mistaken for each other. As you get used to it, you won't mix them up as much, but I've seen these mixed up with learners of Thai. Now these next ones, we have ra rua and totung. So totung, I mentioned, doesn't traditionally have a loop. Ra rua, it starts from the loop and goes up and around. I've seen some people start and write it like an S, and maybe that's because they've seen it in fonts like this. Now, have a look at that. This is Ra, Ta. They look quite different here, but look here in these fonts. It's like, what the heck? Both of them, I guess if you're looking through English speaker eyes, look like S's. This maybe be a wonky S, but still, if you saw it fast, your subconscious, if you didn't speak Thai, would say, okay, that's an S. But actually, this is a Ra, Re, and a Ta, Tung. How do you tell the difference? Well, rā rua, now we would have started from the bottom and written it up here, not like an S, but you don't know that when you're looking at the print. But the tōtong, you can see this stick coming up here, which is representative of this stick coming down here. And so, rā rua, tōtong, both of them look like S's in English. Don't be mistaken. Now, I've seen some brands actually play on this, and they've used S's and rā rua interchangeably, kind of like we saw that shoe brand, New or Ton Shoes, to give two different meanings. So you can even play with these shapes across languages to do really creative stuff. But just remember, one looks like a perfect S is rā rua. The one that has a kink in it here is tōtong. Now, lastly, is a matter of splattered head, hua tak. Now, you would notice that in Thai, we have many characters that look similar, but some of them just have a kink. So, for example, let me zoom in here. Actually, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll click in, and we can see them all here like this. Kō kai, kō kai. And then we have kō kuat. In Thai, if we're just going to use everyday language, you might call this hua tak, splattered head version. So, one that you see a lot would be chō chang. So, chō chang would usually have the loop here, but the so version has this splattered head. And you can see here in these headless fonts, this thing is out here for the so that has the splat, and they've extended a little. Other ones with the splattered head, maybe moma would be the normal one, and then we have korakang. So korakang looks like a moma, but it's got the splattered head. But you can see where the splattered head is in many of these fonts. It will sort of push some part of the character over to allow for that space for the splattered head, so it can fit into the same space gap as a font. And so if you look at the width of these, they're probably the same width, korakang and moma, but the splattered head, which in other fonts may come out here or in handwriting, they've actually bent this in so you could accommodate for this splattered head space. So there you go. Some hints for reading unconventional fonts in Thai. The general rules are that if there should be a loop, it would probably have a thing somewhere, either a head loop or somewhere that gives it identity. If it can lose the loop, it will lose the loop. If there are two characters where the loop makes all the difference, for example, paw versus paw, the low class versus high class, it's usually the low class that will lose the thing, paw, and the high class will get the thing to represent the loop. And there's only those ones that mainly fall into that category. And whenever you see rā rua written in one of these fonts, don't think S. Thank you for all your support. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this with everybody. I hope this will become an evergreen clip. I've started on TikTok, so go in TikTok. I'll be putting really short snippets out that will hopefully help your language across all different languages, including Thai. Get your copy of Cracking Thai Fundamentals, come into J Academy, learn Thai through the Cracking Thai program, or Minecraft if you really want to get those language learning skills down. I'm Stuart J. Raj. I'll see you on the other side.